Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Sheldon, and this is Behind the Enthusiast. Today, we're going to be talking about my new flat track bike, which I revealed in a previous video, and that is the 2011 Kawasaki Ninja, 650 Ninja, right behind me here. And so I'm going to go into why I bought it, what my dream build was, and why I had to buy this instead. So let's get into it. So first things first, this was not my first choice for the Hooligan build that I wanted to do, and I don't know if you guys are able to see, but this says Suzuki. That is my number one brand, and I already have a DRZ, and the 400 is great on the street. However, because I have the Honda as my 450, which is my DTX bike for flat track racing, I can run that in both novice classes, both the DTX and the open class as well. So there's no restrictions really. I'm not bound to just, one category only. I can run in whatever I want. However, because I work at Harley Davidson and an XR750 sounds really, really appealing, I've always had this craving to have an XR750, which is probably worth about 40 grand, maybe even more, especially if you're gonna get one of the XG models and do that thing up. It's probably gonna cost you about 50 grand. I've seen a lot of guys running them, obviously, at tracks in the US. So yeah, American Flat Track, those guys, obviously, if they have the backing from, the actual business, it's a little bit easier to get into that sort of thing. And because at Welland County Speedway, they actually have a 750s night, I was talking to the president, Sean, and I was asking him, if I had, a Sportster, an 883, or, an SV650 or something that, I basically converted over to a Hooligan, could I run that? And he didn't see any problem with that whatsoever. And obviously, I'm not going to be super competitive on it. I just wanted to have something to showcase and put on a crazy show for the fans. And so, aside from me taking my Yamaha, the SCR 950, and converting that to flat track, which is completely doable, I love that thing far too much to put it on a racetrack right now. That is basically my daily in the summer right now. The DRZ didn't get a whole lot of love last summer. It did allow me to get my full M. That was about it. I just basically rode it for that one day and maybe one or two other days, and that was about it. The Yamaha was my number one. It was great. It's great for cruising around. It's a little bit heavy, obviously, but that is kind of the consequence that you have to deal with when you're going to do a Hooligan build, such as a Ninja 650. And obviously, with Suzuki being my number one brand, I was really pining to get an SV650, and a buddy of mine actually thought it would be a crazy idea, and that was kind of the whole point, right? A Hooligan build is it's a hooligan, right? A hooligan is someone who, does crazy stuff. And so I wanted to do an SV650 build, the V-twin. It sounds great. It looks great. Convert it over. It probably wouldn't have taken too much to figure it out. However, I did have a budget in mind. Obviously, I wanted to keep it in and around the same price that I had paid for my Honda, which was already converted over, so it was a little bit unrealistic for me to have that price point in mind. Now, bear in mind, I was going to do all the work myself. I was going to do the conversion, and it wouldn't have been too bad. However, the issue was I really didn't want an SV1000 because I would have to go to a salvage yard or something and get a donor bike for, I don't know, $1,000 or $1,500, and then do all the work. And even though an SV1000 would have been pretty crazy to show off, I also didn't think it would be a very good idea if I wanted it for long term, right? Obviously, I wanted a stepping stone. So the SV650 appealed way more than the 1000. And then, of course, I thought about what I would have to do to the SV to actually get it to Hooligan status, chopping the bike, basically, stripping it down, and I just couldn't bring myself to do that to an SV. I just couldn't do it. And so as much as I still wanted to, I was hesitant to actually go out and buy a bike. I was still looking, I was still doing research, watching Kijiji. But at the end of the day, I really didn't want to chop it. So when this Ninja came available, I saw it, somebody had already done the work. I didn't really have an emotional investment in the bike. And so because it wasn't my brand, it wasn't my favorite bike, nothing like that. Someone had already chopped it up, so I wasn't sad to see it all chopped up and customized to be a flat track racer, Hooligan style. So it was pretty easy for me to jump on the opportunity. The price, I won't tell you guys the exact price, but let's just put it this way. This build, if I had actually done it to an SV650, probably would have cost me anywhere from double to triple the price. So let's just say this cost me $5,000, for example, right? The SV, because I would have had to have bought the bike, all the components, all that stuff, it would have cost me at least double to triple, so it could have potentially cost me $10,000. Just an example. Now, obviously, if you really want to do that sort of build, the proper way to do it is to get the donor bike and build a custom frame. This one potentially could end up, becoming that at some point, or I would also consider doing the SV build, maybe a 650 or a 1000 later on down the road. I do have a friend who is a crazy metal fabricator. He really knows his stuff, and he's going to be doing some work for me as well. Not related to this at all, but he's going to be doing some work for me. And so I think that down the road, once I try the Ninja out, once I figure out what it is that I really like or don't like, I have a feeling I will be giving him a shout and we will be making something super, super crazy. So basically, the reason I'm riding the Ninja is because it was a great deal. I didn't have any emotional investment in the brand or the bike, and it was a super good price. It basically allowed me to stay within my budget, and that's the whole reason why I have this bike. So there's a few things that I have to fix on it. I'm going to talk about those things quickly right now because I've been entertaining you guys with my story. But a few things that I have to actually fix on this bike. The grip, the throttle grip on the right side, it does stick a little bit. So I've got new cables over there. I've got new grips that I've had kicking around for a bit. So I'll probably put a new grip on the right. It's actually been pretty chewed up. And I'm going to take a look at the cables, the way things are wired up. I also have an oil leak coming from the fork seal, so that needs to be done. Now, I don't know if it was leaking before I bought it or not. However, because it's still winter, maybe the cold, it just, the oil seal became brittle, it cracked, and the oil just started leaking. But I do have a rag on it right now to just kind of minimize the oil spilling over onto the tire. That is going to be a bit of a pain. So basically, I have those two things to do. Those are the major things. I also have to put a catch can on it, or a catch bottle, whatever you want to call it. My Honda already has a bottle on it, and that one is a Motion Pro one, I believe. And this one, I'm doing it a little bit more budget. It's going to be budget friendly, a DIY. So those three things are mandatory. Everything else on the bike, I pretty much won't know if there's any issues with it in terms of the ergonomics. Safety-wise, the bike is ready to go once I do those repairs. Sticky throttle, obviously, that's a concern. Overflow bottle, that's a concern. And the forks leaking, that's a big deal as well. So I'm going to change both of those. So that basically gets this bike completely ready to pass tech inspection, and then it's just setup. I'm going to have to do a practice day. I'm going to have to bring this bike out, try it out, see if the ergonomics are set up for me. I did ride it, like I said. However, racing position is completely different from riding it up and down your street or around the yard. So I do have some work to do. So it's pretty chilly right now out in the garage. So I'm going to end this video here. I'm going to go warm up and maybe start tinkering away at this. So if you guys like this video, be sure to smash that like button so I know that it's working. Any comments or questions for me about this build, what was done to it, I can go into more details in a future video. And obviously I'm going to be showing you guys the process of fixing it up and getting it ready for tech inspection. I will be pulling out the Honda as well at some point, checking that over as well. And so be sure to subscribe so you guys don't miss out on future content, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.